Sit around and I sing and I play a little piano sometimes. But like I kind of mix. I go back and forth between doing absolutely nothing and well, like Friday and Saturday, I came up with a new numerical system. I was reading this book of math tricks. It just shows a way of doing math, and it shows little patterns in math that make it a little bit easier to do in your head. Well, actually, quite a bit easier, like remarkably easier. But I was thinking about, the patterns. Like, one of the ones that I was playing around with was, well, you can multiply 11 times any number, well, any two-digit number, and to get the answer, the trick is that you take the first and second digit of the number that you're multiplying times 11 and you add those two digits together. So if you say you're doing 42 times 11, you add 4 plus 2, which is 6, and you put it in between the two digits. So 4 plus 2 is 6. So the answer to 42, which is a 4 and a 2, times 11 is 462. And, it's based on something more than, a trick. Like, there is a deeper reason, and later in the book he goes into like why that trick works and how you can use a similar trick to multiply any numbers together. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about I started thinking about prime numbers, and I was thinking about the base system, because I was like, okay, well, a lot of things are easier that have to do with 10 and 5 because we're in a base 10 system. And I was like, well, I wonder if if you're doing something at a different base, if it would be easier to, you might, like certain things, like if you're in base 8, then it'll probably be, and you're used to doing base 8, that's what is natural to you, then things having to do with 8 would be easier to calculate for you. And so I was like, well, if you could be versed in all of the bases, then it'd be a lot easier to do math. But then I was thinking that really a base 1 system would make the most sense, because then every number would be just what it is, and you would have to just know the number, because the base system is more, obviously they're all symbols, but what really do the numbers 3 and 8 have to do with the number 38? It's 3 times 10 plus 8 plus 1, or 8 times 1, is what that represents. But 3 and 8 don't go into 38. I'm gonna cheat because I have it all written down. Alright, 38 is 2 times 19. So the 3 and 8 are kind of deceiving. It kind of separates you in the number. It takes what is natural in your head and makes you connected to something that isn't like it at all. Because 38 is 2 times 9. It's 2 19s. It is 3 10s and 8 1s, but that's just so much more complicated than 2 19s. And it's a 19 is prime, and so is 2, and so it's the simplest you can get, and so it's the most direct representation of that number. And so I was like, well, what about a base 1 system? And I wasn't sure exactly what that would mean. Well, I wanted to know if someone else had already done it, and so I searched for it on the internet. Basically, they were showing like the slashes, like like when you're keeping score for a game, you do 4 lines and you cross them, then 4 lines and you cross them. And I was like, well, that's far too much. Like, imagining trying to represent the number even just 200 would be ridiculous. You'd have to have 200 lines. And I was like, well, I started thinking that system really isn't a base 1 system, because it just isn't. And I started thinking about the prime numbers and how, well, really, they make the most natural base. That every time you hit a new prime number, you're in a new, well, like in the base 10 system, it'd be like you've gone up 10, now you go to the next level. And obviously it's more regular in, you know, base 10, base 8, base 2 than base prime. But base prime makes the most sense if you want to understand math in a naturalistic way. If you look at how they're formed, well, I'm kind of glossing over some stuff here. So I made up this base prime system, and now I understand the ways this is impractical, but I guess just hear me out. Every time I hit a new prime, I make a new symbol, and every composite number is expressed with the primes that it's made up of. So 1 is in here, and you never see it again, unlike most of these other numbers. But I've got a symbol for 1, then I've got a symbol for 2, I've got a symbol for 3. Those are 2 and 3, the first 2 prime numbers. Then 4 is 2 over 2. And I'll probably post these symbols on my blog at some point. Now we're at 5, and we need a new prime number, so it's a new symbol. 6 is 2, then 3. 7 is another prime, so it gets its own symbol. 8 is 2, 2, 2. Oh, and don't worry, I've got, there's a way of using exponents, so with the, when you get to, you know, squares and cubes of numbers, you don't have to repeat them over and over. There's an exponent system to it also. 9 is 3 and 3. 10, 2, 5. 11 is a prime, so it needs a new symbol. 12 is 2, 2, 3. 13, new symbol. 14, 2, 7. 15, 3, 5. 16 is 2, 2, 2, 2. 17 is a prime. 18 is 2, 3, 3. 19 is a prime. 20 is 2, 2, 5. 21 is 2, 7, or 3, 7. Blah, 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 blah. On and on like that forever. Now, understand that it seems like it'd be really complicated to have to memorize so many symbols. I mean, to really know all the numbers 1 through 100, you have to know 25 symbols. And I'm trying to work on a way of simplifying this, but I'm not quite sure how to do it yet, because I can see how, well, there are two sides to it, because you can memorize enough symbols. You know, your brain is fine with all this information. And the benefit of this system is that it's so transparent. When you look at a number, you know exactly what it's made up with. It eliminates the need for most forms of multiplication or division or factorization, and you automatically know all of the prime numbers, which I think is important. And when you start to see it this way, numbers start to make a little bit more sense, at least for me. The tough part I'm having now is I've got the symbols for 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, but I need to make up quite a few more. But I don't know, just looking at it this way though has been a pretty cool experience, because I never really even cared about math, and I've always actually been pretty bad at it. I mean, I'm in engineering school, and so I made it through calculus 1 through 4 and a couple other high-level math classes, but I mean, I got through it, but I didn't really understand it because they didn't teach understanding, and I really don't like that. But looking at things this way, it starts to make a lot more sense, and it's pretty neat for numbers to start making sense, because they start to become like art. Actually, for the first 10 numbers I did some art. Actually, my favorites are actually 8, 9, and 10 on here. I didn't do them in color because I only had a pencil. I like 1 as well. Yeah, I don't know if you can see. So there's that's 1, and then 8, 9, and 10. 10, the drawing is not actually done. In the center it's supposed to be a sphere. Right now it's just kind of it looks kind of like a circle reflected in a pool, but above that should be a sphere.